It's good to be home. Kelly, I think you got our invocation this morning?
I do.
Fantastic.
Let's bow our heads, but I know this is a little unorthodox for our Rotary Club. But if you don't mind, if you're able and if you're comfortable, take the hand of the person next to you. Father, we bow our heads today, just pause, and give you thanks for this gift that you give us of life. Today, Father, I focus my prayers on the members of this club. People that have in their life raised their hand and said, I want to make a difference. People that have said, I'm going to give a portion of my life, a portion of my day, my family, to helping those that are less fortunate. Today, Father, I recognize that all of us have our struggles. We struggle with depression, overcoming grief, financial issues, sickness of parents, but we also celebrate life and all the joys that it brings us. Father, as we enter this new year, a new Rotary year, I just ask your blessing on this club. Bring us that gift of life that makes us step up, to have courage, to do that one thing that may help that one person sitting next to us live their life. Father, let us remember that each day is a gift, and that each day we have that opportunity to go into the world and make a difference. You don't ask us to change the world, but you do ask us to offer a handshake, to give an encouraging word, to make a phone call, to write a note, to ring a bell. So Father, this day, for all of our members, and as we move forward in this new year, encourage us, lift us up, and let us all be thankful. In all of this we pray in your name. Amen. Amen. Of all the things we think, say, and do,
is the truth, is fair to all concerned. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I told you it was going to be unorthodox.
So what else have you guys changed while I was gone?
I'm sorry, Danny.
Kelly, you got a Rotary moment?
Yeah, I got a Rotary moment. So I guess my Rotary moment was my first district conference, first one I ever went to. And you know what an eye-opening experience district conference is. If you have never been to one, this one this year it's going to be at the Greenbrier. Third weekend in April. Would encourage you to come, especially those of you who have not participated in one before. Rotary comes together, I think, at district conference. You get to see it in a light that you don't otherwise get to see it in your own clubs. That is where you see the collective good of Rotary of our 55 clubs or 50 clubs in our district. Our club has made it a little easier on folks that have not been before. I think there's a little bit of money out there, Danny, I believe, to help out anybody that's not attended a district conference before, and it will be spread equally among those people that decide to go. Is that right?
That's correct. The board voted. Generally, we take $1,000 and we spread it amongst the members. This year, we decided we would spread it amongst members that have not attended district conference before. So it's a little extra incentive. So we really hope some new folks come out to district conference. Thanks, Kelly. Chuck, we got a Sergeant Arms report?
Yes. We have 38 Rotarians in attendance today, and Erica Parker has a guest in attendance.
I do. I have with me today Mike Michike. He and I met oh gosh, I guess it's been almost 2 years we've seen each other. We meet once a quarter to do a 90-day planning session for our upcoming quarter. So we met through that, and we decided after our last meeting that we'd get together. He's going to help me with my golf game. So I'm happy to have Mike with us. By trade, he's a photographer, and I've stalked his Facebook page and his website, and he does remarkable work. So it's good to have him. Thank you.
Dale, oh, I'm sorry.
And finally, Chip Person has a guest in attendance.
This is my oldest son, Glenn the third, I might add, and he works with Carrie out at Run-A-Home, and he's looking for something in more technical and advanced sales or something than just real estate. But anyway, he wanted to come out and see what Rotary is all about this morning.
Dale, do we have a birthdays anniversary report?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
We don't have any birthdays that are registered online. We need to get that updated, so I'll be getting this one to Sarah to find out what the problem is. We have 3 club anniversaries. Robert Gray, first year. This year. Dan, this is your 7th year on the 15th. And David Crabtree, this is his 4th year on the 19th. He's not here. Okay.
Thank you. And I'm a bit behind. Walt, are we done with football pool?
After the Super Bowl, big boy.
Okay.
Hold your horses.
All right. This is my first Rotary meeting since the party at Chip's house, Mike's house. Ashley, do we have any health and happiness to report on today?
No, but I haven't really been getting any health and happiness updates, so I hope everyone's healthy and happy, but
Ashley
please-
doesn't sound well.
I know. Well, please feel free to, send me updates if you or a loved one has something to celebrate. We all do our happy dollars, but if you have something particular that you want to celebrate with the club, or you need just some thoughts or prayers, I try and be extra helpful if someone reaches out to me. So as we're starting the new year, just a reminder that I'm the contact for that, and I'll send an email as well. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? Like I said, I'm kind of out of the loop. Cheryl?
The club has approved Matthew Foster as our newest member, so we'll let him know and have him over here. If y'all could please send me emails or introduce me to people that would like to join. I believe we need 5 more members to make Gold Club in April. So thank you for your efforts so far. They've been helpful.
Cheryl, thank you. And we might have a board meeting next week, next Tuesday, board meeting at Chip's house. Excuse me. Chris's office, sorry. It's 7 p.m. somewhere, I can tell you that. Any other announcements? Buster, you have any happy dollars this morning?
Yes, I'm sure we have tons of them. Anybody win the lottery?
No, I didn't win the lottery. Well, Lily and I celebrated our 25th anniversary last month, and so we're trying to decide where to go. We go to Florida, go to the Caribbean. So we end up in Phoenix this week and went to the college national football championship. And no, my Clemson Tigers did not win, but it was a great game, great venue. We had a really good time. And yes, I have an awesome wife who lets me go to a football game to celebrate. Yeah, we had a good time.
So you guys know how excited I am to be a Rotarian, and I was really proud when I stood up there and they gave me that nice little Rotary pin as I was being inducted. But I have to tell you, this pin Emily passed down to me, this is me. Right now. No regular Rotarian here, so I am proudly wearing my new Rotary pin today.
Chip. Well, I got called for jury duty, and everybody tries to take ways out of it. I had to cancel a trip to Florida to be there. I could have gotten a delay, but I thought it'll only be worse if I did. So I show up over there, and I get in the High Point jury room. I've never been to jury duty. I didn't know anybody in the room. I didn't even see anybody I thought I wanted to know. Frankly, it was a scruffy-looking crowd. I don't know why, but that's who got called. Get called in, they passed out this questionnaire. Where's Robbie? Ah, there's Robbie. Passed out they passed out this questionnaire about being on the grand jury. And I tried to answer as honestly as I possibly could. without being too open to the idea. So they called a bunch of us in.
Death penalty for traffic accidents.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So
I think
the
Chip
good
has a pretty
news
liberal
is,
idea about traffic.
well, I got to hear 184 cases. I got sat on the grand jury. But the good news was, I knew two people in the room once we got in there with all the attorneys and the judge and everybody, and they said, we need a replacement on the current grand jury, and that person will only serve 6 months. The first name that we call, and he scrambled everything around, and then pulled the first name, and thank God it was me. Second Monday, I'm actually honored to serve. It's very interesting. It gets a little boring, but grand jury is something else. Let me tell you. It's
Jury duty's the best, man. You go up there, you turn off your cell phone, nobody can call you. I love jury duty. You can call me anytime.
Last week up in Catawba County, I conducted what will probably be my last jury trial, as my term is coming to an end in about 10 days, but I got to see half of the grand jury over there. And anytime the jury comes in to get picked and you hear all these excuses or they've heard them, I always tell people after the trial, after they tell me that it was really cool and that they were glad they did it, then go home and tell your friends, don't try to get out of jury duty. And one of the stories I love to tell is about 1.5 years ago, I was conducting a jury trial in Durham County and had to suspend the proceedings for a day. And then I dramatically whip out my own summons to answer my own summons to go serve on a jury here in Guilford County. So nobody's above doing it, nobody's too busy to do it. It's a small price to pay for the citizenship of the jury, and we need everyone to do it. So that's my happy dollar. I have had colleagues that have been seated on the jury as
You didn't know the judge?
which is stranger for the presiding judge, I'm sure, than for the judge in the jury, but usually no.
Yeah. John?
Well, this isn't for anything that I've done or accomplished.
Exactly.
But this is just to recognize another Rotarian. So as I'm getting up this morning and I'm turning on the news and there's all this hubbub about the $1.5 billion lottery, up pops this young man from Cheryl David's office who had a telecast about, don't promise your friends because it could be a legal contract.
That's a great.
Well, my happy dollar is in honor of my friend and former coach and our speaker this morning, Abby Donnelly. I'm delighted to have you, and for those of you that don't know her, she's awesome.
She's awesome.
I'm gonna give a happy dollar for Abby. She lives in my neighborhood, and this woman will walk the block like nobody's business. I have never seen anybody. I see her 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm leaving for work. She's still walking. So, well done, Abby. I envy you, but thank you so much for doing that. I don't have to.
Like a border collie, aren't you? If you're not doing something productive, you're just tearing things up. I'll take one every.
This is Ken to say thank you to the club for all the nice notes I got while I was gone, and to thank you for your support. The children that I got to visit, and the stories I got to hear, won't tell them now, but they are showstoppers, and the little girls we're supporting are just rock star students, and they wanted me to come back and thank KC Rotary for all the support. I also wanted to thank Chris for covering for me, so you get the Starbucks of Vietnam. Believe it or not, this is an extra large shirt. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm giving a call today, my daughter and myself, we went skydiving out in San Diego, and if you've never done it, you need to do it. It's gonna be my new, wherever I go, I plan on jumping from an airplane.
Cool.
Yeah, there we go. Well, Grandpappy Lewis got a phone call, picked it up, and it was Grandma, and she said, "Pack your bags, I won the lottery." And he said, That's incredible. Where are we going? And she said, I don't care where you go, just don't be there when I get home.
You're welcome, bud.
Thank you.
Well, I have the honor and privilege of introducing our speaker this morning. Abby came as a guest not too long ago, and I told something I'll tell again. So I'm a hometown girl. I'm from Greensboro, but when I moved back here 10 years ago, I really had no connection except for my father to the business community. I really knew no one. I was starting over in my career, and my father has been in Crescent Rotary since the late 80s. And Abby's a Crescent Rotarian, and when I was first getting to town, my dad said, the first person I want you to meet is Abby Donnelly. That was just before I even got back to town. He said, I want you to meet Abby. So I think that speaks to what a force she is, what a connector she is in our community, what a great person she is, and I've really been honored and privileged to have her as my friend and business associate for a decade now, and I know a lot of us know her. So I'm going to introduce her. She's going to be speaking on succession planning, a very interesting topic. Abby Donnelly is the founder of the Leadership and Legacy Group, and she works with business owners and CEOs to navigate the often complex challenges that come with succession planning and exit. She works primarily on the people development and strategy side. Previously, she was with Sandler Training, a franchise specializing in sales and sales management for 12 years, and also worked for Procter & Gamble in their with productivity and streamlining business processes for 14 years before that. She recently published a book, which is a great sort of Twitter style, I would say, little snippets, great little snippets of tips, called 128 Tips to Make You a More Effective Leader. I highly recommend her book. She has a Master of Statistics. That's so interesting because you're a really dynamic person. She has a Master's in Statistics from the University of Florida and a BA in Mathematics from SUNY at Albany. And she is also on the board for the Carolina Bank, chair of the board of Kinder Music. She is the chair of the Women's President's Organization, WPO. She serves on the board for the Society of Financial Service Professionals and also Crescent Rotary, where, in her own words, in July 2016, she will serve a second term as president. Glutton for punishment? ? This is in her bio. That cracks me up. She's been happily married for 26 years, and they have a dog, Lexi. So please welcome Abby Donnelly.
So thank you very much, Ashley, for that great introduction, and for all of you for welcoming me back here. It's great to be at Gate City. I love this club. I think you do amazing work, and you have a lot of fun together. And for how early you get up every morning, it says a lot for who you are. So as Ashley said, I started my business, the Leadership and Legacy Group, back in 2012. And it was based on a bunch of research that I did. I interviewed about 50 CEOs and business owners, and I read about 100 different publications. And what I found through that research was that there is a coming tsunami that I'm going to share a little bit about with you today that is going to be based on the fact that baby boomers are aging. And we all know it because even if you're not a baby boomer, you can look around and see that it's happening around us. So based on that research, there's going to be a need for people who own businesses to work on succession and exit. And there are a lot of resources out there already today on the financial side, but unfortunately there aren't very many resources out there on the people side. And I think you probably know as well as I do that if you don't get the people part right, you're not going to get a successful transition. So when I talk about why most succession plans fail, I'm talking about failing to reach their potential. So they may still go through, and I'm an example of that. As Ashley read in my bio, I was a partner with Sandler for 12 years. Effective 12/31/2015, so less than 2 weeks ago, I formally exited that business. And so I've got my own succession planning experience with that. And I would say that it didn't reach all of the potential that we wanted, but there are still going to be, there's still a succession there and there's still opportunities. So it's about, creating the outcome that you want. So let me give you some statistics to kind of set the stage, and I think these statistics are really compelling. The first is that 8 million businesses are going to change hands in the next 9 years. For perspective, there are 23 million businesses in the country, but only 15 of those have more than one person. And so if you look at 15 million businesses, more than half of them are going to change hands. That's a really, in the next 9 years, that's a really, really large number. And to make matters worse, in the triad, we are the 12th oldest MSA in the country for business owners. So we're going to feel it much more than other regions are going to feel it. And you know what kind of an impact that's going to have on our economy if businesses don't transition well. The statistic that probably shocked me the most is that 75% of owners want to transition their business or sell their business, but only 20% actually sell. So by 2020, 25% of our workforce is going to be over age 55, and a whopping 40% are going to be millennials. And you know the wisdom gap. I know the millennials have tremendous value to offer, and every day when I work with some of my best millennial friends, I'm blown away by the capability that they have by 25 that it took me until 50 to even come close to. At the same time, there's a lot of wisdom and experience that we bring as those baby boomers are aging. So we've got a lot of knowledge and wisdom gap to close. What I've also learned is that 76% of the high potentials that sit in your businesses, they're just not ready yet. So we got to get them ready, and that's really the work that I do. So the Leadership and Legacy Group works with business owners to help them prepare their C-suite for that succession and exit. And it enables them to be able to run the business profitably and sustainably. And so if you're going to sell the business to a third party, you still need those leaders to be developed because they're going to need to represent your business to that third party if you want to get the most money out of it. The other thing we do, I'll talk about as we go through this, is we help owners figure out what the heck they want to do with the next 20 years of their life. Because if they don't figure that out, they're not going to go anywhere. So, so the reality, 42% of owners are going to exit their business in less than 5 years. That's kind of the breakdown of that 8 million transitioning, 23% in 5 to 10 years. Most owners, unfortunately for them, have a disproportionate amount of their wealth tied up in the business. And so what that means is that if they expect to live in the same quality of life that they've had to begin with, they're going to have to get a good sale out of their business because they've just got to fund their retirement. So of the businesses that sell, only 23% actually sell to children. That may be a surprise to you. 41% to key employees or to some sort of an ESOP. And then 29% sell to that third party. But remember, that's only 20% because those are the 20% that sell. And then $5 trillion in wealth will transfer in the next 15 years. A lot of money out there. Now, some of you may be saying, you know what, I've got a relationship sale, meaning that I'm going to either sell it to a family member or a key employee. That's what I call a relationship sale. So those of you that are thinking, hey, I'm just going to transition it to my family member, only 33% survive to the second generation, 13% to the third, and a minuscule 6% all the way down to that fourth generation. So in order for them to take over that business and sustain the generation shift, they have to be able to run it profitably and sustainably. So there are some risks that I want to make you aware of. Of course, the first one is if they can't run it profitably and sustainably, you don't have a business and you won't get your payout. But the other is that for those businesses that do sell, if they don't sell for the price that they want, you don't get what you expected. So we need to get people in a position where they can sell it on their terms. There's a concept called the rolling 10 that I want to share with you, and this is some experience that I've had for the last couple of years. So I've been out there talking to business owners and asking them questions about when they plan to exit their business. So I'll meet a business owner, I'll say, so, when are you planning to exit your business? And the typical response that I get is, 5 to 10 years. So I've been doing Vistage presentations all over the country, and they have generally between 15 and 20 people in the room, all business owners, and I ask them this question. I don't care if they're 40 years old or they're 70 years old. They give me the exact same answer, 5 to 10 years. So then I see them again a couple years later, or I reach out to them, I say, so, how's your exit plan going? When are you planning on exiting your business? And they typically say, 5 to 10 years. And then I see them again 3 to 5 years later, and I say, so, when are you planning on exiting your business? And they say, exactly. So the thing about this is that there's generally no time-driven reason to do anything, and so we don't. There's a lot of reasons why we don't. But the problem is if we continue to put it off, then we never get there until we have to. A health issue comes up, a family situation shows up, and then you're in dire straits and you're not ready. So my quest is you need to get ready now. Because the fact is, for everyone that you know that's a business owner, they will exit their business one day, kind of like death and taxes, you know, it's a fact. So most CEOs bury their head in the sand. I love this picture. You're probably wondering why. Well, maybe you know why. So there are three main reasons that CEOs bury their head in the sand. It's really emotional. And it's interesting, when I talk primarily to men, business owners, men are uncomfortable with the word emotional. And there's a guy up in, I forget his name, John, can't remember his last name, but he has a company up in the Boston area. And he's been doing this kind of work, not on the people side, but more on the business side. But he alludes in his book to the people side. And he calls it mental readiness, because what he found is that if he calls it emotional readiness, you know, people are like, I don't have any emotional concern about my business. Mental, yes, that's a problem for me. So anyway, the three reasons that, that this is so difficult is that there's a lot of uncertainty in the transition. And there's uncertainty in so many different ways. You don't know what's going to happen. I have talked to so many people that help business owners sell their business. And what they often say is that everything goes up and down. There's setbacks throughout the process. And even up until the day of the closing, just like Mary knows in real estate, when you get to the day of the closing, you think it's going to happen because, my gosh, we've been through so much together. And even to the day of the closing, one or the other will back out. The buyer will back out and say, you know what, I've been thinking about this and I just really don't want to spend the money on your business. Or the seller will back out and say, you know what, I can't stand to part with it. Or I'm not sure that you're the right person anymore. So there's a lot of uncertainty. And that's not even to mention the fact that within a business, there's a lot of chaos. You know, what's going to happen when the people in my business find out I'm going to sell? You know, are they going to leave? Are they going to fight with each other? How am I going to pick which son or daughter to have succeed me? There's just a lot of complexity. And so that's one issue why it's much easier to just put it off. Second is you don't have a qualified successor. Well, at Sandler, we usually say no buyer, no sale. So if you don't have a buyer, you're not going to be able to sell your business. Finding that buyer is hard enough, but finding that buyer that you believe is qualified and you're ready to turn over your baby to, that you have nurtured through 25, 30 years of life or more, that's tough. Okay? So no qualified successor is a really big deal. And it's got to be qualified by your criteria. The third one is our identity is in the business. You know, if we have invested 20, 30, 40 years growing this business, there's a huge identity that we have associated with it. And I don't care who you talk to, everyone has some affiliation. Now, some of them get to the point where they're ready to go. So a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I got a phone call from a guy who had a business. And he said, Abby, I want to start looking for a buyer for my business. I'd like it to be somebody that wants to own the business and can come in and work with me for about a year or two. And then they buy me out. And I can continue to stay on as a consultant and that sort of thing. Do you know anybody? He said, as a matter of fact, I've got a cadre of people that are interested in exactly that. Generally, they're between 35 and 50 years old, and that's the kind of thing that they want. So they've said, introduce me. So I sent him 5, 6 people that kind of fit his criteria. So none of them really met the criteria for him, and I couldn't tell you whether it's that he didn't deem they were qualified or they really weren't, or they didn't want it. I don't know all the details of that. But what I do know is that he decided none of them were right. Time passes, time passes. He calls me back about 4 months ago, and he says, Abby, I gotta get the heck out of this business. You need to find me a broker that can help me sell this business because I want out now. And so what happened was 2 years ago, he was happy with this whole transition. And when he didn't find somebody, he said, I gotta get out now. I can't stand another 6 months in this. And the business was good. It was just he was ready. So his identity at that point was no longer in the business. He was ready to let it go. But it takes a transition like that to move there. It also takes time. This is not a process that's typically done quickly. It can be done quickly, but that's rare. And it costs money. You invest a lot in resources to support you, hopefully good resources, people that can help you make good decisions, but there are no guarantees. So I want to give you 6 questions that I think will be helpful as people you know or for yourself that are thinking about this stuff. The first question is figuring out what really matters most to you. Some people say, I want to make the most money I can out of this business. That's what's most important to me. Other people say, if my business will survive without me and thrive, that's great, that's all I want. Others say, as long as my son or daughter or niece or nephew, whatever, has a business that they feel, that they want to lead, that's enough. Whatever the reason is, that's going to be what drives your process. And if you don't figure that out first, you're going to be making decisions based on wrong criteria. Second question is, how are you assessing and developing your bench strength? So often we believe that if we just put someone in the business long enough, then they're going to get it. They're going to understand it. The approach that I take is very intentional development. People need to learn things. Sure, knowledge is important, but it's the experiences that matter. So it's intentional development to give them experiences and wisdom that will enable them to run the business. Third question, do you really know what your business is worth? If you don't, I can pretty much guarantee you that you're expecting too much. There was a study that was done by a guy who, I just read the book Essentialism. Anybody read that book? It's great. It's all about how do you manage your life better. And the guy that wrote it is a Harvard business professor. And one of the things that he shared in there was a story about how, in general, we tend to value the things that we already own far more than the things that we don't own. And so the example that he used was for a coffee mug. And he said, if you have a coffee mug and you need to sell that mug, how much would you sell it for? And the average price that people were willing to sell their coffee mug for was $5.47, something like that. And then he had them now go look at the same mug and say, how much are you willing to buy that mug for? And they said, oh, buy it? $2.35. And so that gap is exactly what happens with business owners. And I can tell you the same thing happened to me. I was looking at our business and I was saying, oh my God, we've got an amazing business at Sandler. And we do. We have an incredible business. And so I thought it was worth this much. Guess what? Cheryl David gave us the name of a valuation person. When Josh and I talked, we wanted to have somebody outside of the region to do it. And so we went with him. And he came back and he was like, no, not so much. And so that was a little bit of a rude wake-up call. But the fact of the fact that in reality, the business is only worth what someone's willing to pay you for it. And so it could be more than the valuation says, but it could be less. So you never know. Now, when I bought into the business, I sat down with someone that sits in this room, Dennis Newman, because I needed to figure out what the business was worth from an objective standpoint. And Dennis came back to me, and I remember this very clearly as though it were yesterday. He walked into the conference room with the papers that he had after the analysis, and he said, well, I know what you want to pay for the business, because that's what Josh was asking for it. And he said, I'll tell you, it's not a bad price, but you're going to pay a premium for it. And he said, if you want to pay a premium for it, then go ahead and pay this price. And you know what I said? I said, I'm going to pay a premium for it. And so I did. And so I used Dennis, and he gave me really good advice because, you know what, I think I paid a premium for it. But we buy things because it's of value to us. I was buying it for my reasons, not for anyone else's. And value of the business is only one reason. So next question under there is, what would you pay for your business if you were buying it today? Fourth question is, what have you done to get your business sale ready for the outcome that you most want? So there are a lot of things that will impact the value of your business. The industry might change. The economy is certainly going to change. Your family situation might change. Competition could get worse or better for you. And all of those things are going to benefit from looking at your business through the lens of a strategy, which I strongly recommend that business owners do. Now, the sale-ready part, you think about a house, and of course Mary knows this well from real estate, but you think about selling a house. Okay, so how many of you have sold a house before? Okay, so what was the first thing that you did when you realized that you were going to sell your house?
Dress it up.
Yeah, now you go out and you fix it up, you paint the walls, you put in new carpeting, you make it curb appeal really nice, you hire a landscaper, you do all that work, and now you've got this fantastic house that you're going to leave. And, so when you get out there and you put it on the marketplace, you're going to command a higher rate because you've invested in the value of the house. It looks better. You fix the toilet that you've been jiggling the, the handle on for 2 years because you know that the new owner's not going to want to buy a toilet that doesn't work. You get it sale ready. So the theory here is that the more you can get the business sale ready early, the more effectively you're going to be able to sell it at a higher price. So the analogy that I use, just to have this solidified in your head, is, as Mary said, I work out a lot. My husband and I walk through our neighborhood every single morning, except this morning because I have a cold and it was really early. But we did get up early. But I also like to go to the gym. So I have actually 2 memberships to a gym right now, and one for each part of town that I might be in that's convenient. And I usually try to go a couple times a week. And sometimes each of you probably get up the same way that I do, and you have good intentions, but you look at your calendar and like, there's no way I'm going to get to the gym today. I'm just way too busy. Meetings all day long. But lo and behold, you're in the middle of your day, and something cancels. A meeting cancels, and all of a sudden you find that you've got an extra hour in your day. I could get to the gym, but I left my gym stuff on. How on earth am I going to go to the gym? I don't have time to go all the way home, get my gym stuff, go to the gym. So you don't go to the gym. Gym ready is when you have your bag in your car all the time. You walk out to the parking lot, you look at my car, there's a gym bag in there, because I am always gym ready. You never know. So my husband's name is Jim. All right, 5th question. What will you do with your next 20 years? Okay, so the question that I ask people is, what are you going to do when you exit? And everybody's got the same answers for me. Same answers are, I'm going to play a lot more golf, I'm going to travel, and I'm going to go spend time with grandkids and family. And you know what? That lasts about 6 months. But in that 6-month window of time when they're out there doing that, the rate of obesity, drug abuse, alcoholism, and depression skyrockets. And it is hard to recover from that. So my philosophy and my approach is start doing this planning now so that when you're transitioning out, you're transitioning into something that you're passionate about. So I'll show you the model that I use in a minute. But it is really powerful to do that ahead of time. And then you decide. We lose our community, when we are no longer in the same business circles because we're not at work anymore. And so when you lose that community, it's hard to reactivate it again. And your identity is different. Today you are somebody. When you don't have that business anymore, you are the person that used to be somebody. And that's just a lot harder to feel good about. There's nothing to feel bad about, but when you can move into something more meaningful to you, it really makes a significant difference. Last question, what concerns you most about getting started? This is the real challenge that I see, is getting people started. So I've been doing this formally for a little over 3 years. Informally, I've been doing it a long time. And I keep finding that people are having a challenge with getting started. And so my rally cry is, I want to get out there and do presentations for as many people as I can to reinforce how important it is to get started. Typically, it takes a triggering incident. So I'll show you my model. There's 2 models I'm going to just briefly put up here. This one is the Donnelly method, and it takes you through looking at your strategy, through the intentional development process, into the systems that you need to put in place to build the value of your business. Excuse me. And then exiting well. So there's a lot at this, and you can see at the bottom, it looks like it's all smooth sailing, but then there's a couple of times when there are some really ugly times along the way. That'll probably happen. So that's the model for the Donnelly method. And then this is the model that I use for executive transition. You can see over here the discovery process. I really spend a lot of time with people up front, generally a good couple of meetings to work through and help them figure out what are they passionate about, what are they best at and that they really like to do, what are their strengths. It's amazing to me how few people that are in high-level leadership positions really have a good handle on what they're good at. We just go through our culture, we go through life, and nobody tells us, the best you get is, good job there, Abby, way to go, love that. But nobody actually says, wow, the way that you articulated the concepts that you were able, that you were sharing with us was incredibly profound. I got a lot of it, and even more than that. So we don't know our strengths as well as we should. We certainly don't understand how to use those strengths in other aspects of our life or even in our business today. A lot of the work I do with clients is helping them uncover their strengths. own them, and then see how to use them in their business today so that they can be even more effective. And then the third piece of that, of course, is the lifestyle priorities. So we want to be able to figure out what is important to you in this next phase of life and build that in. So if you want to travel 3 months a year, great, let's build that in. It doesn't preclude you from doing anything. And then the next phase of it is the exploration. I usually send people out to talk to people that make sense for them to talk to based on what we've discovered. And then the last phase is, move it into that next phase of their life. So it's pretty exciting. I enjoy it very much, and have fortunately had some good success. So I will close with the concept of get started now. And let's hope that that's not the situation that you face in your business. So I'd be happy to take any questions. I am also going to give away a book, and I'm going to send around a clipboard. You can either grab it or come up. If you want to be on my newsletter list or my blog, just put your email. Oh, yeah. I have a send on pen. Since Sarah's not here, we'll send that one around. So my newsletter comes out every other week, and my blog is on through LinkedIn. It comes out once a week. So anyway, any questions? Ashley?
I'll add a comment. I was just up here nodding. I'm obviously not ready to start my career yet, but when I was doing financial planning, I mean, I think a lot of what Abby's talking about on the personal side, I saw it with executives, business owners. The identity, I think, is a huge thing, that your community and your identity is part of our jobs. I mean, I think it's for most of us in this room. My parents sold their business about 3 years ago. My father is in declining health, and they really were at a point where they had to sell. Thank goodness they did have a good buyer. They worked with a broker. Everything worked out well. My father transitioned into retirement pretty well. My mother, whole different situation. The first year, I think she traveled, she dragged my dad everywhere across the country and the world for like 6 months out of the year. And I saw a lot in what she was doing that I had seen in clients, and I said, you have got to find your new identity. You were traveling because you don't have your new identity, and you can't sit still and be like, who am I in Greensboro without our business? It was really interesting to see. Now in year 3, she's cut it back to traveling about 2 months out of the year. But she keeps telling me, I'm spending your inheritance. That's great.
Stop that.
Yeah, I know. Let's get you settled in. Yeah, but I've seen it firsthand with my parents. I encourage, if you see it in others you love, to help, try and help encourage their transition into finding new activities that are healthy and happy for them, because it can be a very difficult transition to retirement, whether you own your business or you're an executive or whatever. So very timely.
So based on demographics, we're going to have a big supply and demand discrepancy, right?
Which is really exciting for those of you that are young that can buy businesses at a bargain. Exactly.
So the question, the second question is what is the event horizon? Is it 2020? Is it 2025? Is it already happening? What do you think?
It's the very front end of the curve is happening today. And what I think is going to happen, my theory on this is, the front of the curve today is not really dealing with this very well. They're staying longer and longer. You can look around and you can see that there are business owners that are still running their business well into their 70s today. So what I believe is going to happen is that those folks are some of them are going to have some real trouble. And then their slightly younger friends are going to look and go, ooh, I don't want that to happen to me. So they're going to act on it. And then you're going to see the groundswell. Because the baby boomers are turning 70 this year. So as they age into 75 and 80, you're going to see a lot of that change.
I have a third question. So what does that do to the second tier? Like because you'll have some businesses that don't sell.
Yep.
That essentially disappear, and then what about the suppliers to them, and then so this is going to have a ripple effect.
Yes.
We may have a business ownership bubble.
I agree with you completely, and it kind of frightens me, especially in our region because we're the 12th oldest in the country. So yikes, Yeah. Great point. Other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll give away a book.
Let's do the book on, we'll do it with a wrap-up. If you will draw numbers. Yes, this and $1.68 billion. Oh, right, you've given it to the wrong person. Somebody that doesn't need to sell their business this year?
976.
Dennis.
All right.
Okay, everybody, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.